Why is that a problem? Because the war is very unpopular. The Germans know, aha, this is our point. This is our chance. Just as the British sent Lawrence to the Ottoman Empire to get rid of them, the Germans send Lenin, who has been hiding in Switzerland all this time. The Germans send Lenin to Russia to do the same thing, and he does. Lenin goes around St. Petersburg talking to his Bolshevik friends, the Bolsheviks are communists, and convincing them that this new government is not any kind of government we should approve of. We need to set up a communist government. We need to get rid of this democratic provisional government and install a communist government. And he does that in November of 1917. Okay? Quick thing on calendars. Might as well confuse you, what the heck. Is it the March Revolution or the April Revolution? And the answer is yes. Is it the November Revolution or the October Revolution? The answer is yes. Why? Because the Russians use a different calendar. They use the Gregorian calendar. We use the Julian calendar. Their calendar is 2 weeks behind ours. So if you're reading your book and they're talking about the April Revolution, don't be worried, as long as they're also talking about the October Revolution. The Russians call it the October Revolution. We call it the November Revolution. When are you making a mistake? When you say the March Revolution and the October Revolution. Or if you say the April Revolution and the November Revolution, then you're mixing your calendars up. If it's March, it's also November. If it's April, it's also October. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. But again, go ahead, Nick. The problem for the Americans, and especially for the French, is what do you think Lenin does when he takes over? He surrenders to the Germans. It's called the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. B-R-E-S-T. This is a town in Russia. B-R-E-S-T-L-I-T-V-O-S-K. Brest-Litovsk. It's Russia's surrender to the Germans. Why are they doing it? 2 reasons. One, guess what? Lenin promised. When the Germans said, hey, we'll get you to Russia, okay, but you better surrender once you take over. Okay. And the other reason Lenin had to do it was because this is the beginning of the Russian Revolution. It's not the end. Lenin takes over. Yay, I'm going to set up a communist country. The workers of the world will take all the factories over. They will get rid of all of the rich farmers and give the land to the poor farmers. But all of the capitalists in Russia are going to say no way. And so this begins a huge civil war in Russia. Russia is out of the war because they're fighting amongst themselves now for the next 3 or 4 years. So Lenin says, we can't fight each other and the Germans. And so he surrenders and gives all of this land to Germany. All that land goes to Germany. Germany's like, yes! But they're more excited because they take all these soldiers that were in Russia, bring them to France. It's a one-front war now, not two-front. Germany's extremely excited. It's strange that it's the Russians who surrendered, not the French. So that kind of skewed the whole von Schlieffen plan, but that doesn't matter. Now we'll finish off the French because there's so many more of us. So we got these fast trains to get them over there. The Americans, meanwhile, are only slowly coming across on boats. Yes?
They do get, Russia gets its property back, right? Later?
Eventually, yes. Okay, kind of. You'll see. Okay? So the Americans are coming over, but they're coming over slowly. The Germans are pressing again. They can again smell the croissants in Paris. Because the French are like, holy crap, here come more Germans. Oh my God. So we don't know what's going to happen. Nick, please. Meanwhile, another thing that changed because of the war is technology. When you look at World War I, you see all kinds of funny pictures like this screwy looking tank. The British tank is even more funny looking. Okay? What you see in World War I, it's the ultimate transition. Everything in the world changes, including warfare. World War I is the last war where they're still riding horses, for example. And even though they have tanks, they haven't yet figured out how to use them well. The tanks don't make a big difference. In World War II, they've learned how to use the tanks. That's why World War II is so different from World War I. Not only the tanks, you get all kinds of changes, some more important than others. The U-boats is the biggest change as far as being used well. What is a U-boat? Why U-boat? U is German for, or it's the first letter in Untersee. Untersee is German for under the water. All a U-boat is an underwater boat. Untersee boat. All right? And the effectiveness, Nick, of these U-boats can be seen when you see how many ships that they sank around the coasts of France and England. One of those dots is, of course, Lusitania. Other inventions, like the airplane, again, didn't make a big deal. You know how you dropped a bomb from an airplane in World War I? By hand. Literally. Okay? It's nothing like what you see in World War II. The airplanes are used more for scouting than anything else. You get dogfights in between, you know, the planes, the Snoopy and the Red Baron and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really make any kind of a major difference in the war. Other things that they use, things like flamethrowers, grenade launchers, not a major difference. The most interesting of all of the weapons they use, the poison gas, the reason it's interesting there is it's the only time in a major war it's ever been used, before or since. A couple of reasons for that. One, the trouble with poison gas is that if the wind changes direction, you just gassed yourself. Two, it was so nasty. I mean, your blood literally all of a sudden completely clotting on you. Okay? And so, just such a horrible way to die, that after World War I was over, countries all around the world said, you know what, we just shouldn't do this. And everybody agreed not to use poison gas. It's only been used once since then by Saddam Hussein in Iraq against his own people. Now, the machine gun, we know, is not new. It was used in Africa beforehand, but we know it's become pretty much the weapon of choice in World War I, as we saw on All Quiet on the Western Front. Perhaps the strangest thing about that is the 1918 influenza epidemic. And epidemic is the wrong word. Notice it says pandemic. What's a pandemic? It's a worldwide epidemic. This was the worst outbreak of the flu ever in history. You may remember when we were talking about the H1N1, actually, they still got the vaccines, they're still talking about it now. And maybe it'll be worse next year. Everybody was comparing it to this year. Why was this flu such a big deal? Well, first of all, this flu killed more than twice the number of people killed in World War I. No matter how bad you think World War I was, in 1 year, this flu did more than twice as much damage. It also was worldwide, like I said. This was not just in Europe. You had Americans in Boston, literally just walking on, keeling over and dying. Chicago, New York, Washington. Everybody seemed to be being killed by this. It was never cured. The only reason the pandemic stopped is it killed everybody it could have killed. All right? And we still, to this very day, have no cure for this. And the association with World War I is not just because it was at the very end of the war, 1918 and beyond, but because the war is what helped make it so bad. What's the worst thing you can have for a flu? A bunch of people all huddled together in troop ships and foxholes, who then go home, wherever they live from, and spread it everywhere. That's one of the reasons why it was such a nasty, nasty flu. Please? Well, let's go ahead and end this thing. Notice the title here. It's not the number of Americans that really matter. It's not like millions of Americans come into Europe. You're going to have to watch it too, man, if you can't stay awake. Okay? Listen, actually. What is so interesting about this American energy is, remember, Russia surrendered, right? Well, with Russia surrendering, guess what? That means it's the two democracies, England and France, Nick over here, against the Central Powers. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire are all empires. They're not democracies. So this is the democracies against the empires. So Woodrow Wilson keys in on this. And he says things like, hey, we've got the new world going to save the old world. Just like the British gave birth to us and the French helped us become free, we're now going to go make sure they stay free. This is the war to make the world safe for democracy. The war to end all wars. This is it, and America will save it. So the Americans come over with this crusader mentality. We're coming over just in time. We'll save you. And even though it's not that there's a lot of them, that energy is contagious. The 15-year-old French boys who are in the foxholes and can't believe they're fighting in the foxholes, who are seeing more and more Germans come in every day, see this 24-year-old healthy American who's all excited to make a difference. And that's contagious. Yeah, all right, let's go, America. Yeah, vive la France, you're right. Vive the United States. Vive Wilson. excited and